What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is episode 31. I've got my boy, my man, the man, the myth, the legend. I got TJ Smith in the house. TJ, why don't you kick us off, bro? Tell us a little bit about you and kind of how you got here, how you got into real estate investing in the first place.
Awesome. Well, I got into a little bit about me. 35. I am from New Orleans. I was born in Germany and traveled around a lot as a kid. Came to New Orleans when I was 11 years old. And out of high school, I pretty much served in the service industry for a hot minute, waiting tables, being a bartender. And then I ended up working offshore for about 5 years, where I then received my crane license, got my national license, and ran around operating cranes for a living until I was about 29. And then, and then I got in real estate in 2005 I got my real estate license when I was 25. Uh, just kind of dabbled in it. Tyler and I we both got in real estate kind of around the same time. And but I had to continue to run cranes just to support the bills. And once I broke free from that, I hopped in to help Tyler with his business, and I hopped in basically on the underwriting side. I just started underwriting deals for the team, probably underwrote 2 3 thousand properties at least by now. And then I stepped into the acquisition manager role whenever his acquisition manager parted ways. That was back in 2022, I think. So about 2 years now, 2 full years, 2.5 years or so. I've been in acquisitions for him and selling a couple houses here and there, but my goal is not to really be an agent, it's to buy and invest.
Yeah, and you've really played an integral part in that business, kind of playing a little bit of all the roles from, we had talked about this offline, like done a little bit of cold calling, mostly in the acquisitions and underwriting, and even done some of the dispo. So how do you how do you prepare to go between each role a little bit, right? Because like everything is it's a little bit of a different mindset going from saying closing on a deal to dispo on a deal.
Well, I think that so on the acquisition side, it was mainly just connecting with the seller and figuring out what the problem is, and then we do high appointments. So I would go on to the in-person appointment, close the deal in person, get the contract. And I think Dispo, it was pretty easy though, because we have a big buyers list. So we would just package it up on the website, basically outline everything about the deal itself. I'm pretty detail oriented, so I really like to take a lot of notes. And so whenever I present something, I have like my idea as a buyer, I would say I'd like people to send me things where I have all the information in front of me to where I can make a decision, like right there. Like I
Hmm.
don't want to ask you for things. A lot of wholesalers send me stuff, and I find myself asking questions about things that I really feel like I shouldn't have to. Most Mostly because they're probably new, which is fine. But I think that packaging the deal up with everything the investor needs to know is very important. So I would package it up, and then we would just click a button to send it to everybody. We'd put a date on it, and then I would meet everybody out there, whoever shows up, and it would be a pretty seamless process. Um, so
And were you the one that built the buyers list, or was that Tyler?
it's a mixture. We swap list. I had built whenever we first got in real estate. Tom Kroll, you ever heard of Tom Kroll with Wholesaling Inc.? That
I've
was like
heard of him.
that was our first like our mentor, I guess you can say. And he was always talking about build a buys, let's do 100, and then start looking for a deal, send the deal out. So we ended up started building the buyers list first. And I think him and I had built it to like, I think I had like 900 on my own or 1,000 on my own. Or no, I think I had 1,300 on my own. And then he had like maybe 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000. And then we swapped list, and we basically put everything in a spreadsheet, deleted the duplicates. And then now we had like 3,000, whatever it was. That was back in 2021 or 2022. And then over the years, it's just kind of organically grown. But honestly, we've never really put much energy into like proactively trying to build the list anymore. So a mixture. to answer your question. It was both of us.
Which makes sense. I mean, you and I had talked offline that like one of the things that you've gotten more recently is the title of integrator. But what one of the things I had mentioned to you is that you've kind of been an integrator this whole time, and this is one of those things, right? Like building systems.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like, am I the right salesperson? Like, am I in the right role as an acquisition manager? I feel like I'm a good, I don't know, talker, or maybe I'm charismatic, but I feel like sometimes I'm better at like seeing things from a high level overview and trying to,
Hmm.
and hey, this is what we need to do here. Let's put this there. I enjoy that part of the process too, like building systems and processes. But I think Tyler's better at it than I am. So we've just kind of naturally stayed in our lanes a little bit. But it's been hard to scale, the acquisition team. But we never really tried actually. It's just me until recently.
Right. And now you're what, 3 months into that? Into trying to scale the acquisitions team?
Yep. Yep. About 3 months in, we went through a couple people already. Right now we have two guys, two young guys that are, I think they're college graduates. They live out in Massachusetts. One lives in North Carolina. Good dudes. They got a lot of energy, eager to learn. I think that's the most important thing is being eager to learn more than you are to, make money. Because the money's gonna come with the knowledge you end up getting.
Right. Especially once you put in the reps, you cut down that ignorance tax. You can know all the things like in your head and read them in the book, but you don't really know it until you can teach it.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's being being in acquisitions, I never really had a process. I just wing things, which is a terrible way to do it. Um, which is probably limited my success a good margin. But it worked, and I've done quite a few deals. But I think that now that I'm training these guys, it's like, oh shoot, I need to actually figure out this process. And we've done a lot of trainings, Eric Klein training to I think we had a Rich Wonders training, the Sean Terry trainings, the what's his name, Mike or Martinez trainings. So we've done a lot of trainings, and just I've over the years I've just kind of combined all those into my own little way of doing things. But now that I have a team, it's putting a lot more emphasis on building like a solid sales process. So now I have a good script that I'm still working on. I have a good discovery. We have three phases of discovery, anchor, and delivery, because we employ the novation as a strategy as well, and that's our delivery. Um, but we never really had a like the way to pitch it. It was always just kind of, hey, this is what I can do. This is how it looks. ABC. I try to make it as simple as possible. And now that we have a team, I'm, putting it all together.
Yeah. So what does that look like? How's that been kind of like, I guess, hiring people? Right now you're hiring commission only, which makes sense, but it can be difficult because it usually requires going through a lot more people to find a good culture fit.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much a culture fit, because we have a pretty good hiring process, so the way we do our hiring is we'll have them fill out an application. And then based on that application, they then get automatically sent an email that has them fill out a personality test. So the disc assessment and is it the Myers-Briggs, or no, it's the 16 personalities. So
Yeah,
like
that's the
the
Myers-Briggs.
okay, yeah. So the Myers-Briggs and the disc assessment. And from there, we only look for commanders or maybe protagonist on the Myers-Briggs. And then we just send those in. Those are the applicants. And then after that, we give them a list of like 21 or 26 core values, just random core values with we have six of our own, and we sprinkle those in there. And then, hey, choose six of these that most resonates with you, just to give us an idea of like whether they align naturally with us or not. And even if they didn't, it wouldn't like disqualify them or anything, but it's always good to know who we're dealing with and what they value as a individual.
Why those two personalities? Because out of 16, you're basically limiting your pool to an eighth of an eighth of the applicants essentially, and at least to my knowledge, one or both of you are not either of those. Is that right?
So I'm a protagonist,
And maybe
and
it's Tyler I'm thinking of. I think he's an advocate like I am, right? The
uh,
INFJ.
yeah, Tyler's an advocate. We both flip flop. So I flip flop between a commander and a protagonist, and I think, and it's weird because like I think that as we get older, like our personalities change naturally, and we become wiser, and we might change our personalities a little bit. So when we first took the personality test, I was always a commander, and then over time, I started getting more protagonist, and now every time I take it, I'm a protagonist. But yeah, Tyler switches between an advocate and architect, so he likes to build things.
So why those two though? Is there anything about the commander and protagonist other than obviously we're trying to duplicate TJ here?
Well, we were always told from the people that do millions a year that commanders are typically the personality type that you want in the acquisition manager role, just because they're hard charging. They just like lead the way, go. They build the plane on the way down. They don't ask a bunch of questions. They just do it. They're
Hmm.
not. They don't get bogged down with over analyzing things. Um, so I think that's the reason why.
What are the acronyms for those two? Do you remember?
I have no idea. A protagonist as the INTFJ, or I'm not sure. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because I think protagonist is really close to advocate. I think it's like INTJ or some one of those.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know one of our guys though, he is pretty analytical. He likes
Hmm.
to be he's a high green, so like steady. So he's pretty
Hmm.
analytical, but he's also kind of high D, high I as well. But he's more analytical than anything. So I told him, and the reason why we hired him was because he was the friend of the hire that we already had. So he was like, "Hey
Hmm.
man, he's fixing to be in medical sales. He doesn't really want to do it, or he'd prefer to be in real estate. Why don't you give him a shot?" So we gave him a shot, and I liked his personality. He's very well spoken. He can type well, like he can put a sentence together very well, or he's always well written. And he's just eager to learn. So I told him that the only downfall that I saw was the fact that he seemed to be pretty analytical. He's very methodical in the way he approaches things. So I just told him to analyze with his ears, not with his eyes. It's like, listen to the problem. And
Yeah.
I was like, that's going to be your weapon. Analyze with the ears, not with your eyes.
Yeah. So, are there any other downsides you found to other personalities?
I never really paid attention too much until we started hiring people, to be honest.
Yeah, and it sounds like pretty much out the gate you knew what two personalities you needed and where on the disc assessment you needed them to be as well.
Yeah, and a lot of I guess our direction comes from Tyler and the courses that he's had. I think he's part of the 80/20 course, and with what's his name? Dan something, the guy who built Investor Fuse. And I believe that
Oh,
he took the recommendations from him as to what to hire, how to hire, things like that. So I think that's where he gets the direction. I just let him go with it because I trust Tyler. So, and it seems to be working.
yeah, y'all do seem to have that kind of symbiotic relationship. It's like, look, I'm going to do this. And you're like, all right, cool, I got your back. Or I'm going to do this. All right, cool, I got your back.
Yep. Yep. Now we've been knowing each other for a minute. So since I think more than half our life now.
Yes, I know you had told me at least since your offshore days.
Yeah. So I was 21 when I met him, and he was 20. I think he might have been 19. Yeah. He's 32. I'm 35. So,
He's still a little punk, huh?
huh?
I say he's still a little punk, huh?
Oh, yeah. He's out. He's Tyler. Gotta love him.
Yeah, yeah, gotta love him. He's good people though. What about novations though? Because we were talking just before we hit the recording button. you guys do novations a little bit differently, and I think it's actually the much smarter way. Why don't you go into that process?
Yeah, so it's funny because Tyler had mentioned to me novations probably a year ago, and he sent me a guy and his YouTube channel and how he pitched it, and I didn't quite jive with it because he calls it the equity protection program, and like that's his way to sell it and pitch it. And I personally, I just didn't really vibe with that because I think the way to really protect your equity is to just hire a realtor and get it on the market. If your goal is price and you're trying to maximize the amount of money you get in your bank account, then the best route for you is to list it with a realtor. So I didn't quite jive with it. I didn't want to make that pitch. And then months went by and then he sent me another guy and his pitch was a little bit different, which I liked. Um, and then we just kind of racked our brains on how we were going to do it. And basically, our intention is listen, our cash price is low because it's a cash deal. We have to come out of pocket all the money to acquire it. Then our intention would be
Hmm.
to fix up the property, and 6 to 8 months down the line, we'll sell it for whatever we sell it for to make whatever we make. We can offer you more money and we can both get paid sooner, possibly. But it would entail us, basically increasing the marketability of the property by cleaning it out, pressure washing it, deep cleaning it, maybe fixing a couple little odd end things that might prevent a loan from passing. And then we'll get it on the
Hmm.
market and pay for a realtor and the closing cost, and we'll handle the entire selling process for you, like the hiring of the realtor, the negotiations between the end buyer. We're going to resell basically our contract to the end buyer. And what I tell sellers is, I'll give them like a seller net sheet where they have three different options. Hey, this is our cash price. This is our white glove concierge service, which is our novation. And then this is what I think you should list it for. If you came to me as your realtor and said, hey, I want you to get me top dollar, what do you think? Well, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know who the highest paying buyer in the market is, but here's some comps. Here's where I think the ballpark
Hmm.
is. Here's a low range and a high range. And in the middle is where I'd probably recommend you list it at. I do like a plus or minus 5% of whatever that number is for the low and high range. And then I'll
Hmm.
subtract, I'll give them a net sheet on all the options. And then I'll tell them the long and short of it is this: is the value and the convenience that we're bringing to the table on the novation or the white glove concierge service, is that worth the difference between what that price to you is and what you would net if you listed it on the market with a realtor? Like that's my pitch in a nutshell. Because I'm being transparent of what we're doing. Our intention it's pretty clear. We're gonna put some money into the property and increase the marketability to help us get top dollar. And I'll tell them, and we're gonna list it right underneath what I think it's worth, because from what I'm hearing, it sounds like what you value is speed and convenience a little bit. You just don't necessarily want to give away the farm. So I don't want to sit on a property trying to maximize my profit. I want to get in and out of this as fast as possible because I'm looking for convenience too. The faster we do this, the faster I can keep the money moving. And that's our process in a nutshell. But it really works for, it's like a certain avatar, just like a certain avatar or seller avatar fits a cash deal, a certain seller avatar fits a novation. And those are the ones that again typically don't want to give away the farm, but they do want to the convenience that an investor can provide.
So I'm sure there's somebody that's going to watch this replay on YouTube. They've never heard of innovation before. How would you explain it to them?
How would I explain an ovation? So
Yeah,
you're
like what?
like the parts, like the documents.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking about like if you're a new real estate investor, right? Like I joined SubTo at the beginning of this year, and I remember when I first joined, no one had heard of novations on our regional meetings until basically you and Tyler started taking off with it, and a lot of the people in the communities even had misunderstandings of what novations are, and a lot of them did think that you do have to go get a house under contract, right? Clean it up, do a full rehab. You're basically doing a flip, and then listing the house and then taking, some of that profit. But you and I both know that's not exactly how it works. So how would you explain it to somebody if they've never heard of it before?
Well, I think that you can do it that way too. I just think that it's riskier that way because if you, I mean, versus just putting $3,000 to $6,000 and maybe even $10,000 into it versus putting a $60,000 renovation. You don't technically own the property, and the seller cannot not sell it, right? And then you'd have to go through the whole process of putting a lien against the property. If you're
Mhm.
borrowing money to do it, I mean, good luck with that, right? So, um, the process though is basically you contract with the seller at, let's say, 275,000 bucks, and you
Mhm.
put 5 grand into it, right? Well, with that contract, you have a novation addendum, and that novation addendum outlines the terms of the novation. In that addendum, it states that so I rewrote, being in the space, you start seeing who's doing them, and then you start getting copies of their contracts and how they're doing it. And I would look at
Mhm.
it, and I would just there were things that I didn't want in there and I just changed things up a little bit to kind of better protect us and better protect the seller a little bit. To like the indemnification side of things didn't quite make sense to me. Like, why would I want to indemnify the seller? Like, what if a buyer comes in, trips and falls, and now the seller's held the seller is, I can't even explain,
Reliable.
held liable, is not held liable, so we'd be held liable. So I took that out. And essentially, what ours says now is just that we're going to resell our agreement we're going to replace our agreement with a third party agreement. And the seller is going to net 275. And then we have a limited power of attorney as well that gives us
Mhm.
limited authority to do specific duties, such as hire contractors that are licensed and insured, to hire the real estate agent, to handle negotiations, and to basically handle the end buyer purchase agreement if they're cash. If they're a purchaser that comes with a loan, that lender is likely going to want, or is most absolutely going to want, the owner on title on the purchase agreement and not an attorney in fact. So in a
Mhm.
situation like that, we just go direct to seller. Hey, look, we found the end buyer. And that's why it's super critical to be transparent up front on what you're doing. Because if you run into a situation like that where you do need to have where your end buyer is using a third party lender, then you need to go back to the seller and get their signature off on that purchase agreement.
Right.
And and then from there, once you get the third party purchase agreement signed, you send both of those to the title company, and that instructs them on how to disperse the money at closing. The novation fee or consultation fee, or however they put it on the HUD, is on the seller side. So the lender doesn't ever see it. And that's what usually allows it to pass compliance, because a lender is also not going to allow you to have an assignment fee. So if
Mhm.
that is one way to work around it. A lender, if there's an assignment fee and you're trying to make money in between.
Yeah, so it's not too different from your regular purchase agreement. It just comes with that addendum, which it sounds like is kind of like a JV between you and the seller, saying, "Hey, we're going to work together. You're giving me limited power of attorney. I'm going to go on your behalf and do the things that I think make this house far more marketable than what it is currently."
Yeah, but like, so far, our last deal that we did, a seller, it was a wholesaler, reached out to me and said that he tried to wholesale it. It's his family. He tried to wholesale the property. All the cash buyers were coming in lower than what his family was wanting.
Mhm.
And he was like, they're real close though. They're at 120, but like all my cash buyers at 110, or 115, and like nobody wants to pay. Could you help us? And I thought that we couldn't help him either as a cash wholesale deal. It's just too high.
Mhm.
So, but the issue was, we talked about a specific avatar for a seller. The issue was that the owners were elderly. So his family was elderly. They were in their 90s. They moved out of the house because it was a big house and they were just getting too big, or the house was too big for them to take care of, and they were getting up in age, and they just needed to be taken care of by the other family, by their kids, right? So they moved to
Mhm.
Houston. So now the house was vacant, and the house, it wasn't like a turnkey house. It lights, power, everything was on, but it was just dated and it was kind of dirty a little bit. It needed some cleaning, especially like landscaping. It just didn't show well, right? And what
Mhm.
they ended up doing, or what they attempted to do, was hire a realtor, and they ended up hiring a realtor that was in Houston to to list the house. in New Orleans, and they just did a terrible job. They didn't call, they didn't check in, they never dropped the price. They listed it way more than what it was worth. They listed it for 260. And then whenever he came to me, we ran the numbers and I said, listen, I think the property's probably worth about 170, maybe 180. And what the
Mhm.
seller ended up telling me was that he didn't want to take anything less than two to 120. So I was like, well, look, our cash deal is not going to work. We have this other option that might be a fit, but here's how we have to do it. We're going to basically increase the marketability of the property and clean everything out. I think we put about 5,000 bucks into the property, maybe. And then I listed it myself. So I had them sign a bunch of disclosures, just disclosing everything. And then actually this one was they had an objection. They wanted to make more. I told them that we were going to list it for like 165, and they were really wanting to list it for like 180. They thought it was worth more
Mhm.
money, and they wanted more money. And I said, listen, I can't pay more than this because it's risky. I just don't know where that
Mhm.
buyer is going to fall in at. So 120 is my price. How about this? Why don't I list it for 190? If we get crickets after 2 weeks, we're going to agree in this agreement that I'm dropping the price 20 grand to 170. Like that's just like that's expressed, right? We're going to put it in writing.
Mhm.
And that way it gives you, and then anything over, I think I said anything over 160, you get a keep or something like that. So I was trying to get him more money, but we listed it at
Mhm.
190. We got crickets for 2 weeks. I dropped the price to 170, and we got to buy a cash buyer out of Chicago, and we got a cash buyer that bought it at 170, and I think he ended up getting an extra 10, and then I think we
So,
made like 20 after paying the fees, something like that.
yeah, so like you said, it fits a very specific avatar, and it's usually people kind of in a bind, but that need a little bit more money out of the property than what they can currently get with a cash offer or even retail in some cases.
Yeah, yeah. And their situation was that they only had a couple more months of runway in regards to the money they had to pay for the loan they had on the property.
Mm.
So they needed to sell it. And that's why I tried to help them as much as I could. And I told them, I said, you could always list it. Why aren't you going this route? And they just didn't want to go that route. They didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to get into another 6 month agreement. So so we put some money into it and did an novation.
Yeah, and so like you were saying earlier, to be clear, when you're finding these houses, it is essentially inspection ready. Like when you're saying putting 5 grand in, that's mostly just like cleanup, probably landscaping, pressure washing,
Yeah.
maybe some junk
Yeah.
removal.
Yeah, it's just increasing the marketability just enough to make it look a little bit more attractive than as is condition. And so we're not doing this to, gutted houses. We're typically not doing it. I haven't done it yet.
Well, it doesn't seem like it really works all that well to do it that way anyway, because like you and I were, like you were just saying a little while ago, and we've discussed previously off of the podcast. Um, the first hint that I got of innovation was somebody had come to me asking if I knew a PML that would be willing to do one, and they were basically looking at buying a house for 110 that needed like 100 grand in rehab. And we had brought it actually to the regional Zoom. And one of the things Jeremy said was he's like, yeah, that's cool. You can do it that way, but there's no real way to secure your PML. Like, just because of, like you said, the seller can always try to run off. You can like try to put a lien on the house, but if the house doesn't sell or the seller just decides that they want to be less than honest, kind of just stuck in a bind.
Yeah, I mean the alternative to that would be like a short-term owner finance loan, instead of if you're okay with this price, then we can do it, but we have to pay you we'll pay you whenever we sell the property, but we need the title first to be able to be secure so I can get this money partner in. So it'd be a short term. I guess in the case that I just mentioned, sell it to me on terms, 120. Here's 1,000 bucks as consideration. So I'm,
Hmm.
zero in basically. And then that gives me the title. And I guess that's one way to do it. and then you do the renovation, and then you have the ability to sell it, and they have a lien against the property.
Yeah, I guess so. I just remember that was like the first hint that we had heard of it. So that was when I started asking Jeremy, but Jeremy was like, we don't do novations. So then he brought in Brandon. He was like, Brandon, you do these sometimes. And he's like, I don't know. Yeah, kind of.
Brandon who?
Party man,
Okay, I don't know.
the redheaded guy that he would show up every once in a while.
Okay. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. His short hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he spoke to novations a little bit, but like I said, it ended up being more or less, I think you and Tyler are the only two that I know of now in our region that are really kind of like pitching them on the regular.
Yeah, I'm still trying to perfect the pitch though, you know. It's I mean I mean, do you understand it when I made the initial pitch? Like do you get like why it would make sense as an option?
Yeah, I understand why it makes sense as an option. I also had just gone back for to get you to clarify a little bit more because like I said there are going to be brand new REI invest or brand new real estate investors that are going to watch this and they've never even
Hmm.
heard of it before. Like I said, if you'd asked me 11 months ago what a novation was, I'd have been like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. So I mean, we've done a few of them now, but I think that this is never ending. It's a never ending pit of things to learn in real estate, you know? So like I've learned about a sub three the other day.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about that? 'Cause you told me about it yesterday on the Zoom, but
I mean, I've never done it. I heard Pace talking about it. Basically, a sub three is where, from what I understand, anyways, it's where the seller wants a big down payment. The seller's willing to own or finance it to you, I believe, and they want a big down payment. And instead, you'd have them do a cash out refi to get the cash they want tax free, and then own or finance you or no, and then sub to the property, or you sell the property to you sub to, something like that.
oh. Yeah, so semi similar, but definitely not even but not really close to the Morby method that we were talking about yesterday with
Yeah.
that eightplex.
Yeah, yeah. The more I still haven't figured out the Morby method either. So I just
Like I said the way I understand the Morby method is there's a hybrid, right? There's a
hmm
hybrid opportunity because maybe you have a significant equity portion or and there's still a significant loan balance. So you're going to get a loan for the entire amount from a hard money.
hmm
And that's going to cover you 70 to 80% LTV, depending on where you go. So that way you get them to cover um, the previous loan balance. And then the seller just credits you the loan amount that was given for the whole due back from their equity portion. And then they finance their equity.
That's what you were saying. They keep it in escrow and they refund the money from the
Hmm.
escrow account. Okay,
Yeah, that's why there's two escrow accounts,
got
which
it.
makes it a little bit complex and it makes it a little bit more expensive. There's more TC work involved and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But in theory, if you have $1 million property and you have 500,000 on the loan, I'm going to go to my DSCR lender, try to get them to cover 80. They're going to come in, they're going to put 800,000 in escrow, and then you're going to refund me back that difference being 300 and you and I are going to have our own agreement for the seller finance portion for year 500.
Hmm. I think I have to watch some more training videos.
There's a lot of them, and I've probably watched them a couple dozen times. And I think the more you watch it, the more it clicks, but also it's just one of those where there's a lot of moving parts. And so it's still complicated.
It makes sense.
But I mean, also to your point, like you were talking about sales with innovations, how you're still perfecting the pitch. But I mean, having been in sales for a long time, I feel like your pitch always changes, right? Because a lot of times you're reading the audience. So I usually give my salespeople bullet points to hit. As long as they cover, like you're saying, like the discovery, they're basically trying to determine if that customer is a fit or not, discover what their needs are, and then pitch the solution.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. You're just looking for problems to solve. I think the important thing is just to be cool, right? Just be yourself, be authentic, be genuinely interested in the other person, figure out, hey, this is who I am. I see that you have this property for sale, or, however the lead comes in, but just be genuinely interested and just be yourself, and then ask questions that make sense. I think one of my favorite lines is, this is after I do like I have like a gut check in my script, which is before like motivation. So it's basically
Mhm.
ownership, timeline, and value. So ownership is like, are you the only one on property on the title or not? Timeline is, when are you looking to sell? If you had everything right, if it makes sense to do business and we come up with a price that's fair to both of us, are you looking, when are you hoping to get this done by? That's a timeline question. And then also the magic question that I have highlighted in bold red is it's so tell me, are you looking for the highest price or the simplest process? Because
Mm,
that really like gets them to open up, like, what do they value? And then based on that answer right there, you can usually DQ quite a lot of people. And and then I roll into some motivating questions, which is usually the catch me up to speed line, right?
hmm. Yeah, that does seem to work. And so you use a similar script though for both, right? For your innovations as well as when you're doing cash deals or sub twos.
Yeah, so it's just the discovery is a discovery. So it's, hey, well, who am I talking to? Is this even the right person? What do you have for sale? Tell me about the property. Tell me, what's making you want to sell.
Hmm.
Is there any challenges or obstacles you're currently facing? Um, Sounds like I mean, for like Zillow leads, I'm sure you've been getting lit up with realtors and other investors. I mean, what's preventing you from selling the property? It's all about asking the best questions, right? And
Hmm.
I just started like making a script of my own of like just curated questions that I've came up with and questions that I've heard from other people. And I have like a list of 6 on the motivation side, and then I have a list of 3 or 4 on the gut check side. The last question being, what are you looking to get for the property? You know, um,
Hmm.
so it's ownership, timeline, value, price. Like those are the 4 things I typically try to get out first. And then after
Hmm.
that, I'll go into more motivational questions where you'll ask a question and then try to dig deeper into it, ask some probing questions. And I don't know, it's such like you're all script. I feel like scripts don't work because it's going to go off script every time.
Yep.
But I think you need to have, like you said, a good outline. But I think the thing is that, and what I've found with most scripts is that most scripts don't have like a list of options to choose from to go through. So it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, you got to go to motivation, but what are like really solid motivation questions to ask? And how do you dig deeper on questions? How do you probe for probe the answer they give you to elicit a better answer? Or I think I'm saying that right. But and then from there you can ask like consequence questions and benefit questions, and like what's gonna happen if you keep the property even longer, you know,
Hmm.
or paint me a picture if you had everything your way, what's the next steps for you?
Yeah, I think that's important to, like you said, as long as you're hitting the points, because also in the discovery, one of the things you're doing is you're building rapport too. And that's not necessarily probing and interrogating, because if you're not building rapport, then you're just interrogating the shit out of somebody for no good reason.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you have to be conversational. We don't want to just be machine gunning questions. Credibility, or I think Pace had mentioned that rapport is built by credibility, right? So I think just establishing confidence out the gate, and not sounding too scripted, just being a normal
Hmm.
person. Hey, I see your property, or hey, You called one of our postcards. My name's so and so. How can I help? They said you were interested in having a selling a property. Tell me a little bit more about what's going on, and just get them to open up. You know,
Yeah, because I got to see you do all this live when you and I went down and looked at an RV park back in September.
yeah, yeah. That was your first live call, huh, with me?
Yeah, we probably sat in their office for what, a good hour, hour and a half?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you mean like when we went to the appointment?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because you did do a live call, but that was only about 30 minutes when we were on our meeting between you, Tyler, and I.
Mm-hmm.
But when we went on the appointment, I think we probably sat in their office for probably about an hour, hour and 15, huh?
It was, yeah, it was a good bit.
Yeah, because you had them ready to tell you about the sun, the moon, and the stars on that one.
Yeah, yeah, they were ready to they were really wanting to sell that. We need to follow up with them.
Yeah. See if they came down at all.
Mm-hmm.
If they still think they're giving it away at that price.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just tough, like I don't have an RV park. So and it's you want to operate it, which is cool. But I think that Galliano is just like a tough area. I just don't see much growth over the next 10 years. I don't see any growth over the next 10 years.
Yeah, but one of the things I thought about this earlier today that I thought was cool is that that's what you and I kind of bonded over was we were like, man, I don't want to do all these single family deals for forever. Like I want to do bigger deals. Like I want to take bigger chunks out.
Yeah, it's just easier. It's easy to make it. I mean, it takes the same energy, It might take a little bit like the cash conversion cycle might be longer to close, right? Because it just takes longer to close a big deal. And when I say big deal, I'm talking probably 5 to 50 units, not 100 plus. I'm not there yet. But I think Tyler likes to do the smaller single family stuff just because it's easier to get in and out of deals and the buyer pool
Yeah.
seems to be larger. But I look at it from the perspective of like buy the best stuff, you know, especially yeah, I'm just more interested in more zeros. It's the same amount of
Yeah.
energy.
I'm definitely interested in more zeros in the cash flow, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's just more exciting. You gotta I'm looking at that Aplex, it's a 5,000 square foot Aplex right off of St. Charles Avenue. Like that's an exciting opportunity to be a part of, whether I get it or don't get it. And also like typically the people that you end up rubbing elbows with are generally people that you can learn a lot from, so they're really good relationships that you can add to your Rolodex, so to speak, or your CRM.
Yep. And like you were saying with, the RV park, like, yeah, it's cool. It's something new. It's something we've never done. We just went down there and we just were ourselves and you know, we we figured out obviously from site walks, which I think are critical. Like a lot of people want to buy things solely remote, but I think when you get in the commercial space, especially, you probably should be walking the site because there's so much
Right.
that you and I learned from walking it that we didn't know before.
Yeah. Yeah. It looked way worse than what you said it was.
Yeah, some of those RVs looked like they had been there for forever. Cars
Yeah.
needed to be towed away, landscaping needed to be done, plumbing work was needed for at least for their bathhouse, which wasn't even a bathhouse, but
There
and there
was
was some
a there,
electrical not to do.
there was a lady who setting fire in the middle of the RV park. There was a ice house that they owned next door that had rotten alligators in it that made the entire RV park smell like fish. Like it
Yeah,
was that's why that's why I told you I was like, we don't even need to give them our number. We just need to tell them we're not interested and let them come back to us because our number is going to be way lower than what it is right now.
yeah. But like you were saying before, like similarly to the eightplex, that number is probably off of 100 grand, give or take.
Yep.
And the RV park maybe closer to 200, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
You're right about that.
Well, and that was one of my big takeaways from it because, like, I thought, like, hey, let's just get him under contract and then let's just go renegotiate it later. And you were like, bro, we are so far apart, though.
Yeah, I mean, try to renegotiate $200,000 on a $600,000 RV park. It's gonna be kind of tough. During your due diligence. You know, from our due diligence, we found all these problems and we need to come down 200,000. I'd rather just say we're not a good fit or way off on price. Try your luck with a different buyer and come back to me unless you're willing to negotiate, but we're not even close. And then she never
Yeah.
tried to renegotiate. And and she was said that she had another buyer too. So I wanted her to give that. We didn't like knowing that she had a new buyer, another buyer, a potential buyer. I knew that any kind of renegotiate wouldn't have worked. So I needed her to get rid of that buyer first, and then we would have had a shot. We might have a shot of getting it where we need to be. But even if we get it at 400,000, I mean, what's the game plan? We're gonna wholesale it? You gonna run it?
I don't know. The game plan would be to go into due diligence and see if what the zoning planning commission has in line. Because if they are continuing work, if there are projects lined up right behind what they
Mm-hmm.
have that's expiring in 25 and 26, then yeah, sure, dude. Like we could run it. Why not?
Can
Like,
you depreciate an RV park?
can you depreciate it?
Yeah, like for tax
Yeah,
purpose.
tremendous amount.
Really?
Yeah.
Even an RV like a park, like concrete and grass, you can depreciate that?
You can depreciate it more than you can depreciate multifamilies.
No kidding.
You can take bigger bonus depreciation. That's one of the things I like about the asset class because you don't necessarily have to own the homes like a mobile home park does.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the things that a lot of the structures and things that are on there are considered to lose value quickly. Now, mobile home parks, you can depreciate more faster. You can depreciate like the value of the homes in a period of like 5 years. But in
Mm,
the RV park space, it's anywhere between 5 to 15 years, depending on whether you own the mobile homes, or if you're just depreciating the other assets that go along with it.
right. That makes sense. That's pretty cool. I think the big value add for the Aplex is being that it's at the end of the year. I'm trying to, if I can get her to six, then we can definitely offer it. And I would put, we talk about earlier, I was talking about packaging it up in a way that the investor can make a decision on the spot. I think adding what the potential depreciation benefits would be if they accelerated everything would be a great way to get the deal off and get an assignment fee. Because I know buyers that specifically look to buy at the end of the year that are looking for big, big
Hmm.
stuff, so they can start writing off.
Yep, just like I know people that look to invest by the end of the year for the same reason. They're trying to buy in equity so they can depreciate their annual income.
Yep.
But also to your point, like on that RV park, even 100 grand is significant. Like even if we were just trying to get them from 650 to 550, you know, 100 grand
Hmm.
is not a small amount of money, especially not when it's, such a good chunk of the deal when it's that percentage. What's that, probably 15, 18% of the deal right
Hmm.
there to shave 100 grand off of 650.
Hmm.
But I think at least on the Aplex, you'll be closer. You'll be able to, because it sounds like they need it off their hands more than the RV park people do. They own that one free and clear, so they're not really as motivated to get it.
I don't know. They both seem motivated. Nobody's gonna show you their hand out the gate. I think the lady with the Aplex, I think she's got some things she's working on. She needs to get done. She kind of expressed it a little bit to me, but then her daughter came in and you know, uh, I asked her why she was selling. She kind of nodded. She didn't tell me, but she was like kind of like give me body language. But because she was there, I didn't want to dive deeper into it because it felt like, she was trying to be like, hey, look, this is the reason. So hopefully
Yeah.
tomorrow when I go there, she's not going to be there and I can kind of dig a little bit deeper into the motivation.
Well, if you remember on the RV park appointment, they did the same thing. Oh, well, our daughter is the one that's really trying to get us to sell. They said that we don't need the headaches anymore because we're retired.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just crazy that they're selling it like that though. It's like how much does it cost to clean it up a little bit, you know?
Mm,
It, they
probably,
might not be able to.
I
To
don't know.
at least the cars, get the cars towed, the junk cars towed out of the RV park. That's in the middle of the lane.
Probably a few $100. That
That's what I'm
shouldn't be too
saying.
expensive. The landscaping shouldn't be that expensive.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, I imagine the plumbing and the electrical is what they're really deferring because we have no idea how bad that could be.
Yep.
If there's one electrical box that's not the code, who knows what the hell's going on with all the other utilities that are all underground,
Hmm.
especially in a place that far south. Like, it's nothing but marsh. There's a canal right behind it. There's a canal on the left side of it. There's a highway in the front. Like,
All right.
who knows? All their utilities could have rattled apart. The water table could be really high one day. Who knows? Like, could be anything.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
No, but it was fun. It was interesting to get to walk a property where we looked at it, we're like, yeah, the toilets don't even flush, bro. Like, how did you
I
come up
know.
with this number?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to be disrespectful to them, right? So it's just I don't know. It just the timing was bad. The timing wasn't right for them. And we were just too far off on the numbers. So I'm playing the game with them. Like right now they want to fill out some other buyers. So I let them do that. And I followed up with her last month. So I think it is about time for another follow-up, but I'm just gonna ask them how the selling process is going. Hey, we're still interested. It's just we can't be at that price. I mean, how's everything going with the ice house? Did you get the junk cars removed? Did you guys ever happen to renovate the bathrooms? Like, what have you done so far? Is everything the same? Are you still looking to sell? What's the game plan?
Did you
How's
ever put the
things?
damn sockets back in the wall?
Yeah. So we'll just, see where they're at. Obviously, ask them about their business. How's the gator business going up in Crowley? Is it booming yet? Did you build your building? What are you waiting on? It's a booming business. You got a great idea. Alligator stuff. What is it? Alligator stuffed lobsters? Is that what they're
It
trying
was
to do?
something crazy like that. They were trying to get
Yeah.
into the specialty meats, I guess, because everybody knows that like people in Louisiana do some crazy shit, like turduckens.
Well, they could sell it to like walk-ons, and they'll have that on the menu or something. I think that's one of their primary buyers is walk-ons and
Yeah. I think that's why you didn't want to follow up with him because you forgot your case of gator.
oh yeah. Yeah. You
You
forgot
were
how much
like, dude, what the?
I
Yeah,
know.
you were like, what the hell? I got cash for this. Like, you
No, I
didn't bring
came
me no
all the
case of
way over
gator.
here. I didn't come here for the RV park. Came here to get a box of gator. The RV park was a decoy.
What was it, like 20 pounds of gator or some shit?
I think it was 12 pounds of gator.
Yeah,
She was gonna give me a deal, and she's like, "Oh, we forgot it." But she said it so nonchalant. She wasn't like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot it." I was really looking forward to that gator.
yeah, I know. Me and you were gonna eat good the next week.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna
We
give some.
could have, we could have saved it for Tyler's birthday.
Mm-hmm. So did you find more out about the No One Left Behind challenge?
Um, I haven't heard from TJ yet. No,
Okay,
I don't know anything more about it other than I think the next one kicks off on the 17th. So we may not do a podcast on that day because it kicks off right at the same time at 4 p.m.
got it.
And it said virtual, so I'm assuming we can all just attend on Zoom with Pace like we usually do.
Okay.
But I think that'll be fun. I think also like between me, you, and Tyler, like helping getting all the people like to meet up more routinely too has been cool because it feels like the three of us are starting to build our little community of REI people,
Mm-hmm.
you know. that leads to new ideas and different perspectives.
Yeah, I'm ready to get my RV and well, first get it and then get my RV and travel and close deals over the phone.
Yeah, same, bro. We need to do just enough deals. I need to make like 50, 60 grand. I'm gonna go buy me like a used class A. I mean, you can just go hit the road. We'll just go see some
Okay.
places.
That'd be awesome.
Tennessee's real gorgeous this time of year.
Tennessee. Yeah.
Wherever you want, man. Tennessee, Appalachia in general over that way, like North Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina, all that stuff is pretty.
Katie said we
Katie
gotta
said
go.
come to Nevada.
Yeah. Let's go. I was just up in Utah. I had is it Utah? I don't know. We were at Zion National Park and then we went to Red Rock Canyon and some other place too.
That's in Nevada, I
Um,
think.
I think it's like right on the I think yeah, it's right on the border, I believe.
Because
And
one of
Bryce Canyon too.
my friend got married at Red Rock.
Okay.
And we flew into Vegas for that.
Yeah.
But it was gorgeous.
Yeah, it's nice. I want to go check out Sequoia National Park, Yosemite. I mean, you just feel so alive when you're out in wow in the wilderness and just, amongst nature,
That was
especially
one of
when
my
you're
favorite parts of Tennessee. We stayed in
mm-hmm.
Pigeon Forge, like in the Smokies.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a cabin. The cabin had a basement, a first floor, and a loft. And the
Mm-hmm.
basement had like it had a balcony for the basement and it had a balcony for the first floor because they were like on the cliffside. So you could go sit in the hot tub and just look out over the mountainside.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. I gotta get out of New Orleans. I love New Orleans though. New Orleans is a good city. It's a good wholesale market, I think. It's just not the best. I don't think it's the best buy and hold market because of insurance costs and crime's high and you know, high. It's a very litigious state.
Yep.
And what's the other one? There's four big problems. The population decrease. So we have the highest population decline, one of the highest crime rates, some of the highest insurance, and we're like the one of the highest states that have the most lawsuits. So it's just like I'm not
Right.
trying to be here anymore.
And the litigation is half of the cause of insurance claims in the first place.
Yep, yep. But the food's good. Food's good and the music's good and the people are cool. So I can see
Yeah,
why
we ate
people
pretty
like
good
it out
that
here.
day.
Yep.
Stop at some random gas station. Teacher like, I gotta go get my snack.
Oh man, you always got to try the boudin when you're
Yeah,
out in the country.
man, these people don't know what that is, TJ.
Boudin.
Yeah,
Is anybody from the South in here?
I don't think
Patrick?
so. No.
Where's Patrick from? I think Patrick. I think me and Patrick are following each other on Facebook.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. I don't think he's from Louisiana though.
Okay.
I think that's mostly a Louisiana, Mississippi thing.
Yeah, our acquisition managers are from not the north, but one's from Massachusetts and the other one's from North Carolina, and he's talking to a lot of our leads out here. And like, I don't know. I was like, look, man, you gotta throw in a y'all or yeah, you're right, and how you doing? I said, I was like, you sound like you're from Massachusetts. You need to just, be a little bit lazy with your tongue. He's learning
Talk a
though.
little slower.
He's learning. He's learning. I had to pull a couple leads out. They would hang up on him, won't answer him no more. Even with the 504 number too. So they just know he's not from here.
That is true, and that's important.
But
You have to sound like you can at least get along with the people that you're on the phone with.
yeah, and I think that's why it's even more important to just like you got to come out strong. Like first 10 seconds on the phone, you got to make some sort of impression. So be interesting, be interested, be different. Don't sound like a company. I'm so and so with so and so. How you doing? We're a creative real estate investment company. Blah 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 blah. I don't like all that. That was in the script that we gave to them because we didn't have a script, and it just didn't vibe
Mm.
well. So, and it's even honestly, it's in my script. My because I've been perfecting it. It's my in my upfront contract. It says that we're investors, but it used to say that, we're a creative real estate investment company, and although we might not be able to provide you the highest price, we can bring speed and convenience to the table and maybe even some creative solutions. But like I just think that that's too much on the front end.
It is because if you're trying to give them too much to digest, and then they don't know
Yeah.
where you're going with this, and a confused mind always says no. It's like the first rule of sales.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's because we were following like a template of somebody else, and he had like set expectations, property details, fact find, price, motivation. So, and his was worse than mine, in my opinion. He would say, I'm so and so with the company, and we're a creative real estate investment company. We live by the golden rule. I got some sellers like, what's the golden rule? I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, well, we can't use this anymore if they don't even know what it is. Like,
yeah. No, it's way too cheesy.
yeah. So I think the best thing to do is just, hey, I'm looking for a property to buy. I'm an investor in the area, or I buy properties in the area. And it's everyone's going to be a little different. You got to bob and weave.
Yeah, I feel like when you do that in sales, it's the same. It's the same thing in everything, right? Like some people are trying to sell you on them. Some people are trying to sell you on joining like their religion or their professional organization or whatever. If I
Hmm.
came up to you and I was like, "Hey, TJ, guess what? I'm a Christian. You should join my thing." You'd be like, "Huh? What?
Hmm.
Why?"
Yep.
Well, because I live by the golden rule. And you're like, "Okay, like what the hell
Yeah.
is that? Like, what does that mean?"
Yeah. You got to lead with value. Disqualify. Just, I try to get that out the way. Go for the no.
Yeah, it reminds me when I was working in the quarter, one of the guys during decadence, all the evangelicals come down, and so you got people marching in the street because it's a gay pride event, and then you
Mm.
got people on the street with their megaphones trying to preach that whatever they think they view the gospel to be. And this one dude
Yeah.
kept trying to hand me $1 million bill,
Hmm.
and he was like, "Hey man, how's it going? Fine, cool. You you Christian? Yep. So you're not looking to change? Nope.
Hmm.
Well, cool. You want this anyway? Nope. Hand it
Yeah.
to me. It's $1 million bill with his pastor's face on it, and on the back it had a Bible verse. I crumpled it up in front of him and I threw it in the trash. It's like, no, dude, it's not how you do this.
Cold blooded,
Yeah,
bro.
you gotta be like that, man. Like some people just want to waste your time. It's
Yeah.
same thing. Like, and in the quarter we see that a lot. I saw bad sales pitches every day. You'd see the people with the scams. They would come up to you and be like, I have this piece of jewelry and it's the only thing I have left and I need to sell it to get gas money to go to California. Do you have anything you could spare so I could sell you this gold ring?
Hmm.
Like, no, bro, get the fuck out of here. Like,
Yeah.
you got that out of one of those quarter turnstile machines. Like, you ain't
Yeah.
gonna fool nobody with that.
So your role, the preferred role that you're in, like we've been talking about the dispo and the cold call and the acquisitions and the underwriting. And what role do you prefer to be in? The integrator role? Is that right?
I mean, that's kind of the weird thing between you, me, and Tyler is that we all are pretty split between like visionary and integrator. And I think any one of us, like you could throw any one of the three of us in any of those two roles in almost any capacity, we could figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What do you excel at though? What do you want to be in? If you had to choose one.
if I had to choose one out of just those two, I would pick the integrator all day because
Out
kind
of
of
what?
like what you're doing.
Dispo or
No,
sales?
well, if if we were talking just visionary and integrator, I would choose integrator every time because of like what you're doing with building the team. But out of dispo and sales, I'm not particular like I don't feel particularly inclined in either. And that's why
Hmm.
like I have more integrator tendencies and visionary tendencies. I don't really care for either because they both feel like outbound sales. Dispo, I guess you could probably shore up with more systems, kind of like y'all did.
Dispo sales, bro. Dispo is just as much as sales as acquisitions, I feel like, because if you're not dispoing something, you ought to be calling buyers. And like one of the things that I've
Right.
been wanting to do is to get a curated, not a curated, but like really organize the buyers list. So cold call the buyers. Hey, I think we have like 4,500 buyers on our list right now. And I'm
Hmm.
told Tyler that we need to send an email blast or a text blast. Hey, are you still buying stuff? And do that like 5 times. And whoever doesn't answer, just take them off the list, or
Yep.
send them an email, send them a text message, do that 5 times. Obviously, you'd want to curate it, make it personable, each message, but like get through that list 5 times. And whoever doesn't answer, just delete them, clean up the list. Your open rate's going to be way higher, right? I think ours is like 50% right now, or 40%. But it's
Which is
gonna,
actually really good.
I don't know. I guess I think that I don't know if it is or not. I don't know what other people's open rates are, but um,
Even for one list, like people that opt in, that's pretty good.
really, yeah. Well, I guess that's just from being around long enough. Maybe we just have people opt in, I'm not sure, but and then once you do that, then you call everybody, have a personable conversation, have a script, just like you would with a seller. Hey, what do how's everything going? Are you still buying? How's things been? It's been a while. We've been neglecting you. I'm so sorry. Whatever you got to
Hmm.
say,
Yeah.
and then really take good notes and one of the problems that I find in like the CRMs is that it's difficult to like really filter down. Like they have like the tag options, but it's like, how
Hmm.
do I find the buyers that are looking for properties in a specific like subdivision? You know what I mean? Like, what if you're
Hmm.
doing virtual nationwide and you're trying to filter out a subdivision? Like, who are the buyers looking in a subdivision? So, I mean, I guess you can tag it, but I think you can go down a rabbit hole. So what I did, we were using ClickUp. You ever heard of ClickUp?
Hmm.
I really like ClickUp a lot. But it's more of a project management thing than it is like a CRM.
Yeah, because I use Motion for my
Motion, yeah.
projects. I use Motion for my projects and I use Teamwork um for um my consulting client for her projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never, I think I've seen Motion before, but I haven't used it yet. But what I would do is
Motion's cool. Motion's just Reclaim, basically.
oh, okay. So it's like
Because
an AI calendar deal.
yeah, but it has a projects tab. But Reclaim, when Tyler sent it to me, I looked at their website. They market themselves as the motion alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the new thing is like when something gets traction, a
Mm-hmm.
secondary company will come up and be like, well, TJ did this thing, but I
Mm-hmm.
can do it better. So,
Yeah.
hi, I'm the alternative to TJ.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
then they
yeah.
just try to ride that wave. They try to ride the coattails.
Yeah. I'm trying to
Because
create
Reclaim's
it.
owned by Dropbox.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but I think with with ClickUp, what I wanted to do is to sort by state, city, zip, neighborhood, and subdivision. Like have a drop down for all those. And then the buyer type can be, your cash, burr, retail, sub-to retail, sub-to investor. But I think really honing in your dispo is probably so if not as important, it might be more important than acquisitions,
Hmm.
right? Because you got if you know your buyers, like I know a guy here that doesn't his whole businesses on a freaking Google sheet. But
Right.
he's probably doing 100 grand a month. And he's doing big deals though. He's in big neighborhoods, Old Metairie, and he knows the buyers. Like he has like probably 10 buyers in the back of his pocket that knows where they need to be at on price. And when he locks it up, he sends it to all his 10 buyers and he gets the deal done. He's making 20, 30, 40 grand on a deal. Every deal
But see,
because
that's the only thing I like about Dispo is I feel like you could shore it up with a lot of systems, and it is still a lot sales. But like you're saying, with a big buyers list, you can send out a couple blasts, and you don't have to do all the cold calling, all the repetitive stuff that people don't like in sales.
yeah, that's true. You can do that. I think it just removes a layer of relationships though, If you systematize things too much, then you remove the personability of it, right?
Yeah, well, I think you have to systematize it to kind of like Occam's edge. Have you heard that term before?
Hmm.
Right? Like where you do the minimal amount of effort to get the maximum amount of return.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
that's what you're trying to find. You're trying to find Occam's edge. Um you're trying to find where you can systematize it so you can take a lot of the boring mundane work out of it, but still keep it personal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, the 80/20 rule can be applied too, though, right? Who's the 20% of people buying 80% of all the deals in the area? And you can go
Hmm.
back 5 years and figure out who the biggest players are in any area. And
Yeah, totally.
and but I would call those people, right? I would only refer to the systems if that method didn't quite work, maybe. But you can do a blend of both too, right? So I think that's where the tactics come in hand. But so dispo is important. Dispo is just as much of sales as acquisitions is.
Right. And actually, in all honesty, capital is just as much sales as anything else. It's just a different kind of sales. It's a much shorter sell. It's a lot more direct.
Hmm.
You know, if Katie in this case is my lender and you have the deal and and I'm trying to help you get the funding, I'm going to call Katie and I'm going to say, "Hey, TJ's got this deal. It's an eightplex. It's in New Orleans. It's right off a main thoroughfare.
Hmm.
This is what the rents currently are annually. This is what we think we can get them to. Needs this much in rehab. You could be the first position. This is what we need." And she's going to think about that for a second and she's going to say, I don't know. You know, 12% for 12 months is a little bit low. And I'm going to say, okay, well, what would make it work for you? Right? Like it's a little bit more rapid fire. The negotiations are usually right there and it's not personal. I think
Yeah.
that's the big thing
Yeah.
with like acquisitions and dispo that, well, mostly acquisitions that I don't like is that you have to get kind of personal and do a lot of rapport building.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That acquisition just definitely it requires a certain kind of person, which is why sometimes I feel like I'm not the right person because I'm kind of direct sometimes, but I've had to learn a lot of empathy since I've been doing it for the past couple of years.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard because like same thing. Like I can be direct. I want to sit there and I can be empathetic. I want to be empathetic with you, but there also comes a certain point where I just hit my max, and that's why I like dealing on the capital side more because, like I said, when I call up TJ and I say, "Hey, I got a deal. These are the terms that they're looking for," you can say, "Yeah, that works for me. Yeah, that doesn't work for me." Or you might counter with your own terms and just be like, "Look, I can't do 12. I can do 14." But I'll give them, you know, 18 months instead of 12
Hmm.
or whatever, like whatever the terms are. You can do that kind of back and forth. It's a lot, the negotiations are right there up front. So if I don't like your terms, I'm just like, nah, I'm good, bro. I'm gonna go somewhere else. And if you really want that deal, because you really like that deal, guess what? You're gonna come back to me with better terms. You're gonna say, no, 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 don't go to Katie. I'll give it to you at 10%.
Hmm.
Cool. We have a deal.
Yeah. Do you have a script that you use when
Not
you
really. I do the same
talking
thing.
to it?
I
Do you think a script would be beneficial?
I think it's kind of the same thing that you do with your innovations.
Like
It's
an
like
outline?
there's points that you need to hit, like
Mhm.
when I teach people how to make like pitch decks and how to make their posts, there's like certain points that every lender wants to know. They want to know what's the loan amount, what's the interest rate, what's the close of escrow, um, how long are
Mhm.
you looking for the funds, like what percentage are you hoping to get the funds at,
Yeah,
what's your experience, you know? Like there's a handful of things. It's probably only about 6 or 7 things in total that most people want to know. So like when I make a post, it's like, hey, I've got a co-living that's in Texas. They're looking for 70 grand and they're looking for 12% for 12 months. It'd be a second position lien with a personal guarantee and cross collateral. So that's the other thing they're looking for is what kind of security are you offering as well? Like how are you going to secure their loan?
makes sense. I've never raised private money, so I don't know what the. I mean, I figured that would be the questions you would probably ask, but I haven't gone down that road yet.
Well, I try to do the same thing that like you were saying before, like with deals that you get, you want them to be packaged really nice and neatly to where the lender doesn't, or this in this case, the buyer doesn't have any additional questions. For me, I want the lender to be able to look at it right then and there and make a decision and say, yes, this is a deal for me. No, this is not a deal for me.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what you want. You don't want to be asking questions as the lender, simple questions, just like a buyer. Hey, how many square feet is the house, dude? You know?
Right. Well, and so those are a couple other important details. Like when you are listing your deal, is your floor plan, right? What's your bed bath count? What's your square footage? What's your lot size? And build a year build.
So I don't know if you were asking me a question, but I have like the things I'm looking for. So
Hmm.
mine's typically it's year built, ownership length. So how long have you owned it? That gives me a good idea of a lot of different things. If you've owned it for 30 years, it's a great way to like they know a ton about the house. They have to, you know what I mean? So you're gonna get a lot of
Hmm.
information. So year built tells me a lot. Ownership length tells me a lot. Then I go into the lot. So, what are the lot dimensions? Out here in New Orleans, lot dimensions are really important. You know, if you're uptown and there's
Hmm.
golden rectangle, you know, a 45-foot lot versus a 30-foot lot, it's probably worth same size, same lot, like vacant land would be worth probably, I don't know, $100,000 more at least, maybe more,
Yeah.
maybe even $200,000 more. So lot size, lot zoning, like do you have another zoning? Most people probably don't, but it's always good to ask. And then it would generally be, tell me about the major components: foundation, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and roof. And then as far as the condition goes, what I'll tell sellers is I'll just say, look, walk me through the front door. Am I walking? And this is why I like to ask the year built question first. So walk me through the front door. Am I walking into 1982 or has the property been remodeled since then? And that generally gives me
Hmm.
a good idea of the condition, like renovation wise. And I'll ask, um, has there been any other than what we've already talked about? Has there been any issues with anything lately in regarding to like the maintenance and issues like that, like the general components? Has anything been a problem lately? And I don't like to harp too much on the condition too much, unless they keep talking about it. If there's a big problem, I'll keep digging into it. How long has that been a problem? How's that affecting everything going on? But yeah.
It's more or less the same thing when you're presenting the lenders. The only difference is I would say that we bifurcate it. And what I mean is we divide it, right? So
Mhm.
there's like your property details that go here. And then in that case, I would take everything that has to do with the condition and apply that usually in the rehab section of their application.
Right. Yep. That makes sense. You got to know what they're
So,
looking at, right?
right. But the lender's doing the exact same thing that you're doing. And the lender would ask the seller all of these questions if they had direct access.
Yeah.
is basically what it comes down to. If the lender could go on your behalf and go straight to the seller and say, "Hey, I need to know everything about the property and the condition that it's in and whatever," they would do it. But they can't do that, for legal reasons. They have to go through you, the borrower, or
Hmm.
me if I'm an intermediary of some sort. If I'm like if I'm helping you get your funding,
Right.
and but also like I just learned that from being that intermediary that that's the best way to do it because I don't want the lender to come back and ask me questions because sometimes it might be really hard for me to get a hold of TJ.
Hmm.
Like especially if you're a busy guy, if you're doing a lot of deals, like guess what? I can't get on the phone with you every day, any waking day at any waking moment. So
What
it
do you
makes
think,
more sense.
what do you think some of the main questions the lender asks that you keep finding that they keep asking you?
That's a lot of it. A lot of it, the the biggest thing to getting in the door is finding out if there's a deal there or not. And
Hmm.
so what they're looking for is all of the details about the property, like we just mentioned. What's your floor plan? What's your lot size? What's your year built? What's your square footage? And then they're looking at so that details the property. And then they're looking at the loan. So what's the loan balance? What's the interest rate? Then they can determine the amount of equity that's in the home. And then after that, I would say that they're looking at you as the borrower. They're saying, this TJ Smith guy, like he sounds really cool, but like, what's his experience? How many deals has he done? Has he worked in this area before? Has he done this exit strategy before? Is this a brand new venture for him, or has he been a co-living operator for forever? Or does he own multifamilies already? Like,
Right.
they're really looking for, in that case, your experience. And each rung is another rung where there's a potential pitfall for you to fall through
Hmm.
and fall out of their funnel,
Yeah, they're vetting
you
you, the
know?
property, your financials.
Right. So the first thing they want to know is the property even a deal?
Mm.
Because if you give them all the property details and they go run comps and they say, well, TJ gave us an ARV at 300, the best ARV we're able to come up with is 200. There's no deal here. We can stop here.
Hmm.
Right. And then likewise, the next thing that they want to know is on the loan. So if they figure out that you went and did a sub 2 on a loan with no equity and it's like 6%, and you're not offering collateral because you don't have collateral because it's your first property, well, guess what? It's not a deal. They're out. There's nothing to secure the loan, their loan too, because there's no equity in the property and you don't have any
Hmm.
collateral. So
Hmm.
you're out again. And then the third thing would be you yourself. Like, are you a good dude? Like, do you present well? Are you able to talk the talk with them? Are you scared? Are you not? Are you hiding from them? Or are you nervous? Do you have relevant experience? Do you have tangential experience? Like,
Hmm.
how does all that play out? And same thing, like you could get on a Zoom call just like this with a lender and you could totally blow it. And guess what? We're not going to lend to you.
Yeah, experience is important. We we were trying to novate fourplex. We had a JV wholesaler hit us up, wanted the dispo of fourplex, and we brought a buy that was bringing on financing that was also represented, and she didn't quite. They didn't. Neither one of them or the JV wholesaler that brought me the deal understood novations. But to get
Mm,
over the lender compliance, like you need to novate it or you need to do something with the contract to allow so the lender would pass the loan, right? Because they're not going to allow an assignment fee.
mhm,
And the buyer wanted to do an addendum to the property, putting our assignment fee on the addendum and then telling the seller that it was going to be for repairs. Like, hey, Mr. Seller, we're going to have the lender finance the repairs into the price. So the price is going to be here, but we're going to give you here at closing, but we need you to credit back us this money for the repairs. But really it's for the assignment fee. I didn't agree with that one because it wasn't too that transparent with the seller. I'm more
Hmm.
just like, hey, this is what it is. What do you think about it? You don't like it? Okay, cool. What's fair? Right? I always ask that question. What do you think is fair? And but they ended up not want nobody wanted to do it. The JV wholesale didn't want to do it. The one who brought us the deal, the realtor didn't like it. The buyer didn't like it, the novation. And
Yep.
and I was like, all right, well, whatever y'all want to do. And so they wanted to do the addendum, but then after I was thinking about it, I was like, I was telling the JV wholesaler, I was like, well, if we do the addendum, who's to say that like we really lose control of the deal? Because he's going direct to seller at 215, and then he's going to give us an
Hmm.
addendum. And I think we were making like 45 grand or 35 to 45
Hmm.
grand assignment fee. And who's to say that once he sees that, who's to say he's not just going to cancel? I was like, I don't know this buyer, so I don't know if he's a good dude or not. Who's to say he's not going to cancel with the seller and say, oh, I don't want to do it no more, and then go direct to seller later, and then we get kicked out of the deal.
Yeah.
That was my concern. So then I recommended maybe doing a promissory note, right? Or we have a promissory
Hmm.
note off the side. Um, and then their title company didn't like that. And then it was a big old thing. But what ended up happening because he wanted to do the addendum, he found out that we were making 45 grand. He got buyer's remorse. And now he actually went behind our back to the seller and almost blew the deal up. But we have rapport with the seller. So he was like, I don't want to deal with this guy. I'm going to go with y'all. I don't care how y'all make money. Just I need this price. And
Hmm.
it's just crazy that like I guess I brought that up to talk about experience and like that it was all revolved around them not understanding novations. But doing the
Yep.
novation route, it would have allowed us to maintain control of the deal because we have the original purchase agreement. If he would have backed out, ours gets reinstated, and the buyer would have never have seen what we would have made. So, and in that scenario, he probably would have performed instead of gotten buyer's remorse.
Your experience, it tells your credibility and it creates your credibility, but you as a person, your body language and your ability to articulate yourself solidifies your credibility, which is kind of what I was saying a little bit ago, is that like when you get on these calls with the lenders, you gotta just be calm, cool, collected, and just
Hmm.
just like your mom taught you, right? You mind your manners. It's yes, ma'am, yes, sir, yes, no, ma'am, no, sir. Like this is what it
Hmm.
is what it's not. You're not a pushover, but you're not a dick. You don't want to, you're not trying to push them around.
Yeah.
I've been on one call before or I've been on a couple of calls where people start to get antsy and they want to start grilling each other. And I've seen it on both sides where like the
Yeah.
borrower is like, yeah, but what about this? What about that? What about, and it's like, all right, like, hold on, take it down a notch. And I've also seen it where the lender has grilled the fuck out of somebody only to after the fact come back to us and be like, yeah, that went well. I thought so.
Hmm.
Like, dude, what call were you on?
Hmm.
So it's just about showing up as, your best professional self.
Yeah.
Because, you show
Um,
up looking homeless or acting nervous or doing
yep.
whatever.
You gotta, yeah,
Um,
presentation's everything. Your first 30 seconds, how you appear, your first impression. Um, best way to do business is to be easy to do business with, right? So show up, do what you say you're gonna do it well, and just don't be a dick, right?
yep.
Be cool. So
Don't be a dick, be cool. We should get that written on a whiteboard somewhere.
that's funny.
Those two sentences could go a long way and it could get a lot more people, a lot more deals.
Yeah, I just think just be easy to do business with, I think it's just we're all trying to make money, and even sometimes you got to give it. Sometimes you got to give it. I've been in situations where the buyer was like, look, the numbers are tight, but I have like a $20,000 fee, and it's a good buy. I like to buy with friends. We eat dinner sometimes together. Like we'll invite each other out, and I'm like, look, where do you need to be at? He's like, if you give me an extra five, can you give me an extra five? I'm like, yeah, I got you. Boom. And I'll slide him more money and it works both ways too. Sometimes I'm in a bind. I've been in a bind sometimes at times where I was like, hey, we need some marketing dollars. Like I know it's not the best deal, but like, what can you do? You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
they'll sometimes overextend a little bit. It's still a deal. It's just not the best deal, right? Just like
Yeah.
we made a wholesale fee. It just wasn't a home run. It was 5 grand or 10 grand or well, it's usually never five, but it's 10 grand instead of 30, because we're just trying to bridge the gap, trying to make everybody happy.
Yeah. Like you said, be cool. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
I should show everybody the poster that you wanted me to put on the flyer.
No, you shouldn't do that.
That would look bad on YouTube, you think?
Maybe a little bit. Give them, yeah, I don't know. Come on, man. That's locker room talk, bro.
Yeah, I know. Not gonna do it, Katie. Katie wants me to, but we're not gonna do it. But also to your point, that was one of the things that I was talking to Katie earlier, and I know you and I talked about that phrase about the jack of all trades, but the reason I thought it was a good fit for you is because the best warriors are trained on all weapons, right?
Hmm.
Most people are shit out of luck when their weapon breaks,
Hmm.
and we're starting to see that now. Like I said, you're newer to the integrator role, but you were on a couple of the calls with me and Chris where they're talking about a lot of people made a hell of a lot of money with texting and they didn't learn anything else. They didn't know anything else. And
Hmm.
all of a sudden, guess what? ATP comes through, they're done.
Hmm.
All this easy money, the train left the depot, ship sailed, money dried up, like
Hmm.
they don't know what the hell to do with themselves. But what I was trying to say with you is that like you could go out and sell. Like you don't need texting. And
Yeah.
frankly, like you were saying too, Tyler could put you in almost any role. If Tyler said, "Hey, let's flip flop," you'd be the visionary. You'd probably struggle to get your footing at first, but you'd get it.
What do they do? Like, what is it? What does a visionary do again? If they just like big picture thinking and maybe big relationships, is that what it's supposed to do?
It's usually big picture thinking. It's more relationship based. It's more talking. It's more marketing,
Okay.
copywriting. It's more outward casting
Hmm.
of the vision. Whereas like integrators are usually working more like with the team, more one on one,
Was more in the
you
business
know.
versus on the business.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I mean, I'm like Taysom Hill, just put me wherever. Let me figure it out.
Yeah. That's how Tyler described you because I don't know if he had ever told you that or not. He came to me before he put you in that role and he was like, "Bro, I think TJ's thinking about leaving." And I was like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" He's like, well, I don't know. I think about making him a partner, but I want to get here first. I was like, "Cool. We'll reverse engineer it, give TJ an action plan to follow, and give him vested equity." He's like, "Vested equity? What's that?" I was like, "It's earned."
Hmm.
like like an earnout schedule almost. Like, yeah, we want to get the business to 100 grand a month. This is how we do it. So let's you and I build this together. And as we reach these milestones, you get more and more equity that leads up to 50% or whatever the deal is between the two of y'all.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it got to that point. It did. I was a realtor in 2015 all the way to 2019 or 2020, and I gave up my license because my broker wouldn't let me wholesale. So I was like, well, shoot, I mean, I
Mm.
don't. if I can make money wholesaling, then I don't really need this license to make money in real estate. So I'll just let my license go. So I let my license go, not just being ignorant, kind of not thinking about like how much value it did bring to the table, credibility, things like that. I let it go. Then in the summer of last year, it was just like I felt my biggest thing with I think Tyler with me and acquisitions is just that he kept me focused on single family deals when I wanted to focus on things that just excited me more, right? So multifamily, and I just felt like because then I got my license again, retook the exam, did everything all over again, and got a 30-unit motel on listed, uh, big old commercial land on Manhattan listed. I closed two fourplexes, started closing commercial like bigger deals where I was making more on the listing side than I was on the split for the wholesale fee, and
Hmm.
I just felt like, well, and I always told him, show me the incentive, I'm gonna show you the outcome, right? I was like, I don't want to leave. I'd much rather partner with you than I would want to be an agent because I don't want to be an agent. Really don't.
Yeah.
Just the representation side, I don't want to be married to somebody for 6 months. I don't necessarily want to have that fiduciary obligation to represent anyways, you know. And it's just I like the creative ways you can put a deal together on the investment side. So I'd much rather be an investor. And I like the fact that being an investor is more, I can do it virtually versus being an agent. Like I am the business. My face is the business. And I definitely don't want to be managing a bunch of realtors, in a brokerage. It's not my idea of something I want to do. So it got to that point with him and I where I was like, hey, look, it's either we're partnering or I gotta figure something else out because this isn't working, and
Mhm.
I guess that was around the time he came to you. And then we came up with what we came up with, and now I'm a partner. So now it's just getting
I
this
like what
plane
you
off the ground.
Yeah, dude, and it always takes a good amount of, tailwind to get the plane moving, but once it's up in the air, at least it's up in the air, you know.
Yeah. It's
It's
like building
easier
a
to face a little bit of turbulence than it is to take off.
yeah. Yeah, I think the next step is just to get the marketing right. I think we have the cold call in the list pull right, but it's choosing our markets, being strategic about that, not casting too wide of a net because you don't know these markets. Like I know New Orleans. I can underwrite New Orleans. I know many people that don't even
Mm.
come to New Orleans because it's just too difficult to underwrite here because it's very block
Hmm.
by block, historic area. It's just difficult for a lot of out of state people. I had a guy in the SubTo community thought this property uptown was worth like $1 million ARV, and I was like, no, I don't think so. That thing was built in 1960. Those ARV comps are properties built, pre 1900. So that's the
Yep.
market in that area is that they want those older homes. And nobody's gonna pay $1 million for a 1960 build, you know.
Nope.
And he bought it. Like he bought it before he came to me. And then he was coming to me as an agent, like, hey man, what do you think about listing this? We already borrowed the money and everything. We're gonna do a $300,000 reno. We're gonna list it for like 1 million or 900,000. And I was like, dude, I think that thing's ARV is like 700 at best, you know? And I haven't heard from him since. So I don't know
Do you ever go check the MLS, see if he sold it or not?
right now.
But I like one of the things that you said in there because this is really important for anyone that's an investor, which is show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. Like Logan Bowers had talked about that on the first PML Zoom we did back in June, and he'll be back on next weekend too. So that's going to be another good one. We'll talk about passive investing, but he talks about show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. Like even if you're saying your values are different than the incentive, it still doesn't make sense to do something because it's counterintuitive, right? You're typically gonna act in your own best self-interest, whatever that is.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I mentioned to Tyler about with our acquisition guys, I mean, we pay him a flat fee percentage, right? So not flat fee, but like a straight percentage based on gross margins, right? And
Mhm.
and wholesale businesses have a huge profit margin compared to other businesses, right? Like restaurants, they make what, 10%, 15% maybe off of gross revenue.
Yeah.
Wholesalers make what, 50%, 40% if they got it really. if they got it dialed in with like a CEO and all that stuff, that's a lot
Mhm.
of money. So you're making, 400 grand on every million that you're making that you bring in. I was telling Tyler, I was like, what would be cool is get a team of 5 guys, like get 5 acquisition managers. You don't need more than 5. Like I don't know how much. I know some of the top acquisition managers are making around $250,000 in revenue per month for their business. Like for the business that the people that hire them nationwide, like
Mhm.
the top ones, right? And that's a lot of money, right? What is that? 3 million? Yeah, it's $3 million a year in income. So if you had 5 of those people, it's $15 million a year in income. Now imagine if you had, all right, guys, I don't know how legal this is, but let's say you made $15 million a year times 5%, 750 grand. So imagine if you said, all right, guys, every quarter, like you had them on W-2s, right? So you can hold them accountable for the KPIs. Every quarter, there's going to be a jackpot, right? It's 5% of all business revenue goes in this jackpot. And every quarter,
Mhm.
the top 3 people out on the team that all hit their KPIs. And I guess you would gauge the top based off of some kind of metric, right? Maybe it's deals closed, revenue generated, contract signed. I don't know how, maybe some would have a weighted average, like some would be weighted more like revenue, right? Um,
Mhm.
but the top 3 guys would be able to split that pot. And if there one person didn't like miss the KPI, like let's say one person was like a $50 short for the quarter, and didn't hit it, well, then it would reset, but the pot would stay the same. And then like as it would just get bigger over time. And I think what that would do is it would incentivize the best closers to come join the team. You would start building some kind of excitement within the team, and the culture would be like a giant carrot in front of the whole sales team. And that's $750,000 if you're making 15 million, which is a lot of money. I'm not saying like we're anywhere close to that, but
Right. It'd be some kind of performance bonus structure for sure.
But it would be more like a team-based thing though. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but you would still like for legality reasons, you'd probably just call it a performance bonus.
Okay. What would be the legal things that could go wrong, do you think?
I don't I don't know that there's anything that could go wrong per se, but it's just like instead of calling it like say equity or profit share or something else,
Mm-hmm.
you usually just call it bonus because you don't want it to be. I think that's usually the only place where you run into legalities if you try to call it like something like equity stock options or profit share. Because then that implies that they're like some kind of minority owner in the business, which then means they have a stake.
Mm.
And then they
Well,
have, so if you ever wanted to sell the business, they would also have some kind of weight in the decision making that goes along with selling the business because they're on the articles of incorporation as a minority
right.
owner. If you were to do
Okay.
all that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'd have to figure it out. There's got to be a way you can do it. And I think that the point though really is that it's 5% less money and you're going to get way better results because you're going to attract talent, right?
Yeah. Well,
And
I think that's it. I think you just hold them to your KPIs like you're saying, and you can do that 1099 or W-2. And some people even do a hybrid where they'll do like W-2 with commission.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, they didn't sell that
Uh,
part.
I've heard of like car dealerships doing something similar, but yeah, they just structure it as like, or they just call it a performance bonus, but it's the same concept. Like once a quarter, we're gonna set this much money aside, and top 3 guys, top 1 guy, top 2 guys, however you want to do it, they get to split that pot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that'd be I think that's a good, I don't know. I just figured that might be a good idea because I don't need to make all the money. I'm generous. I'm just looking for, somebody that can bring in results.
Yeah, same. I don't really care about what I walk away with because I know what we can. I feel like it goes back to that saying, right? If you want to go faster, go alone, but if you want to go further, go together.
Yeah, that's how I've always dealt with Tyler because I was like, I can do my own thing if I wanted to do my own thing, but I was like, dude, what's the point of that? Now we got to build
Right.
separate businesses and we're going to hang out together. We might as well just stay
Yep.
together and just figure out a role and just do that and grow together, right? And you know,
And y'all are still a little bit in the growing pains, I think. But as you go, once your acquisition reps really start getting you consistent deals, like I think it's gonna start to take off a lot faster.
yeah. And I don't think I'm the, I don't, honestly, I truthfully don't think that I'm like the best acquisition manager or even maybe even that great to begin with. You know, I think I might be a better um maybe leader, right? Um, but it's new for me too, like the integrator role, the leader role. But I put all the meetings together for the team. So we have our level 10 meetings on Mondays. Me and Tyler, we have daily huddles every day with the team where, we're doing basically just role play. I'm like, look, read my script. We're going to keep going back and forth until you memorize all these questions and just do the discovery. Because if you can get good at the discovery and really get good at disqualifying, then that's like you're
Hmm.
halfway there. So, and then I got them to every day from 6 to 8 p.m. we go through training, just regular videos, training videos, Chris Voss stuff, Pace Morby stuff, Eric Klein stuff, just videos that I've not curated, but I've bought over the years.
Yeah, I think you really would like Built to Sell. That's the book I've been on. I'll finish it this week, maybe even by our meeting Wednesday.
I have that
But
book, Build to Sell.
yeah.
Wait, no, I have Buy Then Build.
Yeah, Buy and Build is the one I read before this. Built to Sell is much smaller and it's written more like a novel.
Okay,
Um,
who wrote it?
this is John Warlow,
Okay,
but this is a great book, and that's what I'm on right now.
Built to Sell.
Um, yeah, it's written in a way that's much easier to understand. It's written like the five dysfunctions of a team where they create a fictional owner, fictional company. This is the problem that they're facing. This is what they do to get out of it, and it takes you through the whole storyline. In this case, Alex, who's the fictional owner of the fictional company, goes to his friend, a dear family friend, Ted, who sold multiple companies for multi-million dollar exits. And he says, I
Mhm.
want to sell my company. And he's like, well, your company is useless or it's worthless. And he's like, what do you mean my company's worthless? We're doing X amount in revenue and I take home a 250 grand bonus every year. And how is it worthless? And he's like, well, because you don't have any structure, systems, or a reliable sales engine. So it takes him through the process of building out the things that are necessary to have a good, reliable company for selling.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's where Tyler and I probably thrive, is that where we think like a system, processes and systems is kind of what we are filtering out whenever we're doing things like, all right, how can I make this easier? And then how can I document it so I can just give it to somebody to do? And so
Yep.
our onboarding is pretty much automated. You got multiple emails. You got like 11 emails that go out automated. Um, so basically all we get on our end is whenever they're ready to do our one-on-one interview, and then our second one-on-one interview, which is where we do a like a live, not a live call, but like a role play call. And then from there it's employment. And then from there they go into our onboarding and we have like a huge onboarding with just it's in Talent LMS. So it's one of those little cloud learners. And it's just
Yeah.
videos of us going over the culture, going over the core values, going over the structure, the accountability chart, explains all the different meetings we have, goes over the CRM, and it really sets them up for success. And now it's just like getting them off the ground, right? So they're getting there
Hmm.
though. They're getting there.
Where are you at in the onboarding process with all of them?
They're past that. They've gone through the onboarding.
Yeah, but
But
aren't they still like kind of in their 90-day probation?
I mean, yeah, but they're also our only sales guys right now. So it's like just keep it at
Right.
the office.
But I'm just saying, like, I think because I think that's where you're going to excel is once you guys start to get out of that 90-day probation, they start to get some level of competency
Hmm.
because competency builds confidence.
Yep.
And once they have confidence, it's much easier to sell.
Yeah, they're getting there. They're in that period, right? So
So I
Alex has
think
been
that's
with
where
us.
you're going to see the biggest results is probably between 120 180 days.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And that's why I'm really investing my time with them every day, 2 hours in the evening every single day, like Monday through Saturday. Like they're dedicated. They love showing up.
Yeah.
I keep it engaged. I acknowledge them, acknowledge the wins. I reward the wins, recognize, the things that they do amongst it with everybody in the daily huddle. So I think that's really important with the team. People want to be recognized. And also I had to start learning or reading some good, leadership books. So like a lot of John Maxwell, me and Tyler and I are reading those. Um, criticize privately, praise in public. Nobody wants to be shunned in front of everybody else.
Yeah, there's a leadership quote that goes along with the recognition too. I want to say it's that like people appreciate the money, but they would kill for recognition or something like that. And I think it's true. I think at the end of the day, it's all most people really want is they just want to be recognized.
Hmm.
So, TJ, we're getting close to the top of the hour here. Do you have any kind of final parting words if for the people here that maybe are brand new investors?
Um, Brand new investors, I would just say, man, brand new investors, I would just say keep your head down and keep pushing forward. And don't quit. Be tenacious. Be
Get the
persistent.
reps in, huh?
Get the reps in.
Yep.
Get to $1,000 before you think about quitting. You know.
Yeah, man. I think that's really good advice for people to live by. It helps them cut down that ignorance tax. Like we were saying, build competency, build confidence.
Mm.
And guys, y'all heard it here from my man. Y'all know the drill. We do these every Sunday. So if you guys had fun, if we made you think, if we made you laugh, if we brought you value, if we made you smile or whatever, just we ask that you come back and you bring a friend and we will talk to y'all next time.
Yeah.
Peace, everybody.
See ya.